Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martorano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Behavioral Corner. Me, Steve Martorano, your host and guide. You know how it works here on the Behavioral Corner. The conceit is that I stand here and at the intersection of what's happening and who knows, and wait for interesting people to pass by. And you were always lucky, son of a gun. We managed to hope to bring you some entertaining and informative people, and we've done so again today. Before I introduce our guests, I want to bring those of you who are not familiar with what we do here. It's a podcast about everything, because everything affects our behavioral health. We've had a special focus over the years on substance abuse and treatment, but we also include lots of work on mental health issues. I can't remember how many years back it was we began talking about psychedelics here on the corner. But for those of you who come from that, retired hippie generation that I come from, we are at a different place now with regard to the topic of psychedelics. It has now returned after decades of demonization to be allowed back in polite company. So much so that a lot of money is flowing towards research for them. One of the places you may have heard of is Johns Hopkins University Hospital. They're spending lots of money. They've been granted the opportunity to do research on psychedelics in a medicinal or therapeutic sense. So it's a real deal. A couple of things are going to happen in the next very shortly with regard to MDMA and a couple of other psychedelics that are going to enter, as I said, the therapeutic realm. It has also opened the door for lots of very interesting people who have, some interesting ideas about how to handle all of this, and that's where our guests come in. These fellows are joining us from Canada, Rob Grover and Gary Logan. They are the founders of something called the Journeyman Collective. They deal with mushrooms, and they're going to tell us about that straight ahead. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us on the corner.
Hello there. Thank you for having us.
A brief description of the collective, the Journeyman. It is a luxury guided mushroom retreat that you guys put together. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. I'll ask the really obvious and dumb question right at the top. You're in Canada. This is legal in Canada.
It's in a bit of a gray area.
Okay. Well, we like gray areas. In other words, what do they have? A kind of don't ask, don't tell policy in Canada about stuff like this?
Yeah, we spoke with a reporter from the Vancouver Sun a number of months ago, and she actually had called the local RCMP police department, and they basically said it's not of our concern. There are bigger fish to fry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, good for them. I couldn't agree with that more. All right, so tell me before we get into the weeds here about what you do on these retreats and what people can expect. Are you about a recreational event or a therapeutic event when you put together these retreats?
I would say it is more about the personal development side, so it's leaning towards the therapeutic, but we don't focus on the clinical side of mental health, but there are aspects that people come to us for betterment of their being.
Can I ask about your background? Is it in a clinical or therapeutic work?
So no, not clinical or therapeutic, but there's a vast array of personal development, metaphysical training, and mind-body conscious awareness training. There's a combined 20 years of experience from my realm and 40 from Gary. So there's a lot that we bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. So you've both taken a lot of mushrooms, at the very least.
We've trained in how to guide.
Yeah. All right. This is great because as I said, I'm a retired hippie, so I remember some of the rules from back in the day when it was in a gray area as well.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the days. Fascinating story about how psychedelics winds up, on Schedule 1 lists as dangerous as heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And and you guys know the story, but for those who don't, God bless Dr. Leary and Ken Kesey. they did at least as much as the Nixon administration to make drugs illegal. There's no two ways about it. They popularized it. Everybody started doing it. It gave the government, opened the door to make these drugs seem scary as hell, and shut the other door, which could have led to some very beneficial results had they been allowed to study psychedelics in a professional way. Anyway, let me get to you guys. So why mushrooms? Why did you choose mushrooms? Tell us about the psychotropic active drug, psilocybin. Why did you choose it, and what is psilocybin all about?
Mm-hmm. So I would say that it chose us, and we were both in a position in our life that I had started my own coaching business and executive coaching, professional coaching, and I felt like there was still something that wasn't quite being expressed in my practice. And so Gary's mom, who lived with us for 3.5 years, she decided to pass away, and as we call it, transitioning. And when she passed away, we were both left with grief, depression, and with all the different modalities, all the different training that we had, we still couldn't quite shake it. And there was this individual, we call it this little fairy human, that came into our lives. And she said, I think you might want to consider working with the medicine man that I had just worked with. And I sort of didn't really give it much thought. And then it came back again and went on a journey. And I was able to release the grief, release the depression. And after that journey, I made a commitment to serve my clients in a new way and a different way, and then started training with the medicine man.
Yeah, Gary, can you tell us about psilocybin? How does it work?
Sure. I wasn't interested in it at all. That's why Robert went first. And I thought, oh, I don't need mushrooms. I can get through this grief and depression. But when he came back, the switch in Robert from using psilocybin and working with the medicine man, I was like in shock, like, holy shit, this man's joy is back. I thought, well, if he could shift the depression and grief that he was going through, perhaps I need to do this too. So I spoke to the medicine man and gifted it for my birthday. So that would have been May 6th. I embarked on my first shamanic psilocybin journey, not knowing what to expect. I knew not a lot about the medicine itself, and I just trusted. And I came out the other side. Best gift I gave myself, free of grief, depression, came back in alignment. I was much happier, had a purpose in my life and direction. I was also shown in a vision that this was the path that we were supposed to be on. And both Robert and I spoke about it. And then we spoke with the medicine man and say, these visions came through on our journey. How do we incorporate this in our life, in our programs of personal development and mind, body, conscious awareness training that we both had? And he assisted us in the use of psilocybin, how to work with it, and use it as a teacher and a learning tool.
So specifically the science of psilocybin, it's basically you're increasing the amount of serotonin and connections taking place in your mind, in your consciousness, and as a result you start to connect into different things that have happened in your life that may be holding you back, and basically you get to see yourself in different pieces of your life that you haven't dealt with. So it allows you to heighten your ability to actually see on the inside.
When you say that you, because of personal experiences in your lives, you found yourself looking for some way out of the cloud of, I guess in this case, depression and grief, and you were startled at what mushrooms were able to achieve in that regard. The replication of that on the second or third trip, is that something that happens, or can you only be a virgin once? Do you know what I mean? I mean, that experience, the psychedelic experience, in my experience, was difficult to replicate. After the first time was the moment, and I always use this phrase, when all I could describe it was, oh, I see. And then the other things were trips. They were enjoyable. I got lucky. They were enjoyable, but they were not the same as the first. Now, you guys are careful to distinguish between tripping and journeying.
Yes.
Why? Tell me why.
Yeah. So what we witness is that the first part of the actual entire journey is there's a psychedelic part where you're seeing different fractals, different sacred geometries and whatnot. And then you have to get through that part in order to get into the journey. And that's the spiritual journey. And you'll be shown different things. And I believe that it is replicatable. I think the medicine also meets you where you're at, meets you with your intention. And when there's at least this is our experience, when there's a guide there, that when there's a high level of respect for the medicine, it knows, and it allows you to see different things in your journey and allows you to have a deeper visceral embodiment of the teachings. So one of the things that we, because we have repeat clients who, it's not, I'd say repeat clients are like maybe once every 3 or 4 years, because the journeys that we bring people through, they're purpose driven. So it's not just coming to experience it. And we're working with you, I'll say at a soul level, at a spirit level. And there are metaphysical teachings that we weave into the whole process that I think allow you to have a different spiritual journey or vision quest, if you will, that takes place every single time. And there's teachings that come from them based on where you're at and based on where you're going and the intent of what you want to bring forward for humanity and how you want to serve in the world.
Yeah, I can see the distinction being drawn. A trip is sort of a one-time thing.
Yep.
I'm going on a trip. A journey implies, that it's ongoing.
Correct.
Yeah, there's no destination.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So that's it's a great. It looks like a semantic game you're playing here, but it's not. It's a deeply meaningful distinction between a journey and a trip. So you shouldn't look for that blown mind experience every time. You should have other goals in mind, and you guys can bring methods and guidances so that people can enjoy the journey. So let me ask you, when your clients come to you, how cognizant do you have to be about what underlying mental shape they're in? I mean, you've got to worry about that, don't you? So what kind of an interview process goes on?
We have an online application form first that the potential client would fill out, and we would receive it and review it. They would book a discovery call, which is usually 45 minutes. Sometimes those discovery calls could be 2 or 3 calls.
Or 5
or more, depending on the person and where they're at. We get a good sense of the connection online sort of immediately, whether we know they're going to be like a good fit for us and we're going to be a good fit for them, because they are coming into our center and it is part of our home. And so it's sort of, you're going to spend time with these people. So you want them to be as open and honest as possible and reveal as much as they can or comfortable with us, so they're able to step into the journey process prepared, ready, and willing to trust, surrender, and let go. So with that, we have a 4-week preparation period where we would be on Zoom once a week with them and have discussions on what's coming up in their life. There's also work that we provide them to prepare them for the journey process. That would be video content and material to read. And then they would have that next part of the process would be an in-person journey. So that would be 4 days with us. They would arrive. There would be a journey or a ceremony, we would call it, that evening. And then the next day would be a full day of integration. And then the third day would be another journey, and that would be in the afternoon. And the fourth day would be a full day of integration. When they come to the center, they're with us almost 24/7, except when they go to bed. We're with you all the way through the journey process. There is time out for yourself, but there is time with Rob and Gary and the medicine. So all the trifecta is happening at the same time. And once they depart, which we sadly say they depart and they don't really want to go home, we're with them for another 3 months of integration work. And what does that look like? That's 4 weeks of Zoom calls once a week again. And then we gradually step back and go every 2 weeks for another 2 months. But we always say it's part of our collective. That's why we're called the Journeyman Collective. The collective grows and expands, and they're with us almost for life. We have clients that we speak with like 6 years ago that we're still in contact with that reach out to us.
Rob, do you are you consulted by, or do you refer to anybody in the healthcare field when you run into an applicant that you need more more clinical information about? Do you do that?
Yeah. If someone is in a deep clinical state of depression, then we do have someone that we would refer to. And as Gary mentioned, there's a deep intuitive sense that we know when someone is a fit and when they're not. And if they're not, then we'll graciously guide them to someone else. And then that person has to go through the process as well to see, like, okay, is this person a fit? Yeah, if someone's in a deep state of clinical mental crisis, then typically that isn't our forte.
Yeah. So somebody with schizophrenia is not coming knocking on your door.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Our guests are Rob Grover and Gary Logan. They are the founders of the Journeyman Collective. These are retreats around the ingestion of mushrooms for a number of you got to use the word therapeutic benefits, just not in the kind of clinical sense we're talking about. So let's talk about the process. How long is one retreat? I lost track there. Is it a week, 2 weeks? How long is that first episode?
So we actually don't even call them retreats, but for the sake of our website and to create that image in people's mind, because they need to have an image in their mind when you're talking to someone, we do call it a retreat, but it's more of an intensive, and it's actually the whole entire support program is 4 months, but the intensive in person is 4 full days. And
that's the period I wanted to ask you about, those 4 days. How many mushrooms are used in a 4-day period?
Yeah, so there's 2 ceremonies, and again, the dosage varies depending on the individual. Again, we've taken that time to get to know them, get to know their history. Have they ever actually experimented with psychedelics in any way, shape, or form? Have they ever ingested alcohol? Or sometimes people haven't experienced mushrooms. They haven't even experienced alcohol. So
the dosages would be different.
Yes, definitely. And then it's also like, what is their mental state? What is their whole entire health state? Where are they at? So that's like personalized and can vary over the duration of one ceremony, which can be 5 to 8 to sometimes 12 hours. I'd say on average, we're looking at about 5 to 6 hours of being in with the medicine. And we're working with you the entire time. Some people would say, if they're looking from the outside to the inside, we're just sitting there doing nothing, when in actuality, we're moving energy. We're working with the mind to mind, soul to soul on the inner planes. So we jokingly say that we're sort of like the little pinball flappers that bop people along on the inner planes to help them move through their journey.
You two are the sole guides on these journeys? You don't have any assistants? Where do your mushrooms come from?
We have different gardeners that we soulfully trust.
Oh, so you don't buy anything online?
No.
Okay. And you're confident that you can measure dosages
Yes.
Carefully? And that's from experience, or is there some science associated with it?
So there is science. The individuals that we work with, they test their mushrooms for consistency. I don't know the exact amount, but then based on that, we will change dosage as well. And they're also tested for vitality energetically, and they're blessed, and they're only grown for this use, for ceremonial use.
Gary, during the journeys that you guys are guiding, are you also ingesting mushrooms?
We do. We take a microdose, a microdose. Most times, it's very little.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do that?
To get on, for myself personally, is a frequency and a vibration of, so I'm know sort of where they are within the journey process. I intuitively know, but somehow I feel that having a little bit of the medicine with me helps me to guide them even deeper through the journey process and know where they are.
Mm-hmm.
How are the mushrooms ingested?
They are dried mushrooms. We don't ground them up, but we want the client to see actually what they're digesting. So they actually look at it, taste it, and feel it, and see what they're putting into their system. And along with gourmet dark chocolate, and there'll be like ceremonial tea that they will drink, and fresh juice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But basically they eat the mushroom. It's not made into a tea.
No.
And the chocolates are to what? Sweeten the little bitterness associated with.
Totally, exactly. It just helps the medicine. It helps the medicine go down.
And then with the fact that we're using like beautiful gourmet chocolate, there is the aspect of cacao in the chocolate as well. So there's a synergy that takes place with those two medicines.
Mm-hmm.
So and we really work with people in the context of actually blessing the medicine that they're with as well. So they're blessing and infusing their intentions for their journey into the medicine, and so that they can work with the medicine when they're in the journey.
Are the journeys conducted in groups?
No more than 4 people.
Oh, okay. That was my next question, because that gives you a manageable group, and you can handle that.
Yeah.
Look, you know as well as I, not every journey is on a smooth road. Some journeys are on bumpy roads.
Yes.
What happens? Or have you seen people have bad journeys? What do you do in the event someone's getting anxious or scared or?
Yeah. So when that happens, again, because we've prepared people and we've worked with people leading up to it, we talk about that. We tell them how to rest into the medicine and how to actually go into stillness. So again, if someone's looking from the outside to the inside, and we've had people go into very challenging spaces within self, and because of the preparation work and the work in person, because Gary's an Alexander Technique teacher, which comes into the whole entire experience of an embodied journey. So we teach people how to go into stillness, and most of our clients, I'd say, are able to go into stillness in a meditative state for like 5 hours, if not more. So, so we teach them how to work with the energy of anxiety when it comes up, teach people how to move through those deeply challenging journeys. And I'm even thinking of someone that we just worked with, and she was like, that was so excruciatingly painful for about 2 hours, or she actually didn't know how long it was, because time disappears, as you know. And she was completely still and surrendered into the whole entire experience, even in the excruciating pain that she moved through. So that's a big part of how we work with people.
Is there a typical client, the typical sort of person that you hear from?
Yeah, I'd say most people are entrepreneurs or executives or professionals in their own realm, and they have a good part of their life together, and they just want to, they know, they motion their hand in front of their heart, in front of their chest, and they say, there's something that I haven't connected in with yet in this lifetime, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to access it, but there's something missing in my life. And they know that they're here to make a greater impact within their companies, within their businesses, and within their communities. And I think that's the overarching piece, is that people are looking for a deeper level of connection, and it's a deeper level of connection to self that is then reflected back into the people that they work with, the people that are on their board board members that they work with in different ways and in their communities. And because they've connected in more deeply within self, they can use that awareness in their conversations to pull on strings that they may not have pulled on before, to really foster that deeper level of connection within the people, within their companies and their communities.
And their families.
Yeah, and their families too.
Yeah, this has been the promise of psychedelics for many, many years. Once you get past the recreational, what a long, strange trip it's been, and try to get to the benefits of it outside of the experience. How does your life get better because you've taken this journey? So they're high achievers.
Yeah.
I suspect because of their high achievement that they've got some money, and I'm almost certain you guys don't take insurance. So how much does this cost?
So our group journeys start at 11K USD.
And that's the whole continuing process,
Yeah.
the follow-up, and all of that. Oh,
Yeah,
correct.
Okay. It's interesting because we had a woman on a couple of months back who, if you were to take yoga and take mushrooms and replace it with yoga, that's what she does. She does these journeys to exotic places where people like to go because they travel, and brings the discipline of yoga to them at that level. Sounds sort of like that. Well, you must be aware of what the medical establishment thinks about guys like you. What do you come? I'm not telling you anything you don't know. They will be probably forthright, overwhelmingly saying this is dangerous. These guys are not trained. You've got to know what you do. What do you come back to them with?
We are trained. We are trained in more of the traditional sense of the medicine. And as I mentioned, Gary has 40 plus years of mind-body conscious awareness training. We may not be trained in the clinical setting of what the institutions may want you to be. And we are very transparent with all of our clients that we are not psychologists, we are not psychiatrists, we are not doctors, but we have a broad and deep understanding of how the mind works and how the energy of the soul works. So this is both mind, body, and soul. It's a very deeply embodied process. And at the end of
it's the essence of holistic, the holistic approach to something like this.
Correct.
It is fascinating. Let me just one more look inside the journey. I can remember that there were two schools of thought many years ago about what to do when you're going to go take LSD. And the one school of thought was referred to as set and setting. Are you familiar with the expression set and setting? Okay.
Very much so.
All right. So that was the Leary method and the Richard Alpert. And you had to be in an environment that you felt safe in, is conducive to all of that introspection. And I don't know if they had a term for the other method, but it was characterized by the Ken Kesey Merry Prankster crew, which was take it and then go out, see what happens. Just run amok. You guys are clearly in the first camp.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is that the outside world will always be there. And we do hear people having like journeys in the forest that were mind bending and whatnot. However, our belief is that when you allow yourself to explore the inner realms, that's where you're truly going to learn about yourself. And this is about learning about yourself so that you can apply the learnings and understandings and wisdom into your life, into your love, into your relationships, and in your businesses, so that you can have a greater holistic impact.
A couple of seconds for the end here. Now, I know that you knock down myths about mushrooms all the time. What are the 3 or 4 or 5 things people get wrong about mushrooms?
That you'll lose your mind.
Okay.
You'll actually, in fact, find your mind if you give your time, self permission to rest into self and let go of the old habitual patterns that no longer serve you.
Mhm. Yeah, I think
And
that's
that's probably the largest misconception. Are people worried about becoming ill?
Sick during the journey.
Physically ill.
It does come in conversation, but with psilocybin, there isn't a purging that occurs, not like with ayahuasca.
when you work with someone who's guiding you and helping you move the energy the entire time and teaches you how to basically breathe through those really challenging moments and learn from the actual experience.
Well, guys, I appreciate this. Rob Grover and Gary Logan of the Journeyman Collective. If people are looking for something like this, how do they make sure? What steps should they take to ensure that they're going someplace? After all, I don't know you two. You're in Vancouver, in the mountains outside the city. Am I going to be safe? What steps do I need to take to make sure I'm not going to the wrong place?
Do your due diligence. Know who you're working with. Know what the whole entire experience is. Is there actual integration? Have the people that you're with ever harmed anyone before? We hear some really crazy stories about people who I would say are in the world of malpractice. So are you going to be safe with us? Absolutely. You're in our center, and we make the request that everyone stay in one space during the actual ceremonies. And so safety is paramount. Integrity and intention and purpose are all paramount with us. And it's the greatest honor for us to guide someone through that journey, which we teach people how to actually use the information and the understanding that they have for the rest of their life.
Yeah, the margin of error for somebody like you two is non-existent. You can't get it wrong, or you're done. I get it. The Journeyman Collective, you can find information online, I'm sure.
Yes.
What's your website?
www.thejourneymen collective .com. We're on Instagram and Facebook also.
And they, as I said, they are in British Columbia in Canada. I hope we can have you back sometime down the road. It's a great topic, and you guys certainly know a lot about it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys as well. Don't forget, you know the drill. Like us, subscribe to us, criticize us, but don't ignore us, please. The Behavioral Corner. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.